Okay, so this is an answer to a viewer question about the exam for certification MCSD, and it's the exam with the name 70-486. And the question was about how to study for this exam. So actually, there are some official exam reference books, or maybe I should say book in singular, because there is this one called like the Developing ASP.NET MVC Applications. That is an official book from Microsoft. But the problem with that book is that it is a little bit outdated because the new requirements, the skills measured for 7486 is actually requiring to know some about .NET Standard and .NET Core, how to use a reverse proxy, hosting and .NET Core web application on Linux, for example. But let's look at the screen. And I'm going to show you some stuff to point you a little bit in the direction. So I am now browsing this exam 70-486 page that is on Microsoft.com. And we have these skills measured. And we have information about the different parts. We have those design application architecture, design, the build and deployment architecture, and design the user experience, and so on. So actually, what you need to do is to step by step go through all those. For example, we have those planned data access, separation of concerns. So that is, for example, to know about repository pattern, for example. That is a way to design the structure of the application so that you can mock up data easily, for example. And you have to know when to choose ASP.NET Core or .NET Standard libraries. And we have this design and implement the Azure Web Apps life cycle. So actually what you could do is to just select this and search for it, and go to the documentation, make a GitHub repo, test this out, to how those on start and on stop methods, for example, works, and how to implement it, because it's easier for you to ace the exam test if you know the proper details and you have not just crammed for it, but you know how to code it actually. And there are other things here, for example, state management mechanism. And in this case, this reference book is actually can be helpful. So even though it's outdated in some aspects, there are some parts of this book, like choosing a state management mechanism, and it goes through those cache session cookies and other types of state mechanisms. So this is actually one thing that is a good thing. So you could actually complement doing coding the different skills measured parts that is on Microsoft.com, and read this exam book. So, well, even though it's outdated, it can be of good use. For example, this book goes into the subject of MVC, defining how the model views and controllers, how does it work. I mean, you can find a lot of different explanation of MVC, of this architecture, like on Wikipedia or something else, on an official Microsoft documentation. So, but one thing that is like a requirement for this skills measured is understanding the MVC concept and how it works out. So actually I found out about this question on Microsoft Training Support Forum, and there was one dude here, he was actually asking for need study book, and well, he say that like, is there, does it exist a newer book? Well, like the answer is it does not exist. They are like, check other bookstores and resources. That's the information Microsoft gives. So if we look at the skills measurement again, there is, for example, like this, you can find interact with the host environment. So now we are under the design application architecture. So for example, it's host including Linux and Windows. So let me just show you one example of this. So this is also something that you can get this for free, this study material, when you just make sure to go through the skills and measurement very step by step, row by row, and make sure to try it out in a code project for yourself. So for example, this how to host an ASP.NET Core on Linux with Nginx. So just make sure to try this out, for example. And we have also like it's about static files, how to serve them. That is also in the skills measurement. So if you go through this documentation and get to know those file providers, physical file provider, get to know the different options, static file options, directory browsing. So this is actually also in the skills measurement. Or for example, middleware. It's understanding how to create an own middleware. So I will show you. I had an repository where I try those things out. For example, like this, I use static files, for example, static files. Or I had an use middleware here, so I try to implement it. So the middleware works like this, that it's this task invoke async, and it's also in this constructor, it's the request delegate. This is like the skeleton for constructing a middleware for an ASP.NET Core application. So that's what I can say. At least that's what helped me during the exam and passing it. And also when you have gone through those skills measurements rows and try to code it, try to at least try the different options for the constructors and so on. I recommend to at least buy this official practice test. So you will get a hint on how the actual exam will work out. For example, there are always on the exams there's something like user scenarios, cases, like you're going to develop this. You have those requirements from a customer. How are you going to code? So how are you going to design to meet the requirements for this application? So and you will get a hint of how that works out, and actually so that could be a good thing. I recommend to buy an official practice test as well. So if you have any further question, just make a comment and I will try to respond to it. So and also a good resource obviously here just before I end this video is to have a Pluralsight subscription, and you can just search for, like for example, this MVC request life cycle to really get to know the deep parts because this exam is quite detailed. So well, I hope that will be helpful for you, and I wish you success in taking this exam.